the world of real-time strategy, there are few things more exciting than the promise of a new contender, a game that aims to capture that perfect blend of grand-scale tactics, modern military hardware, and deep strategic gameplay. For a long time, it looked like Broken Arrow was going to be that game. The marketing, the early looks, the sheer ambition of it all pointed to something special. It was positioned as the next evolution in the genre. But then it launched, and the story since then has been a difficult one. It's a classic tale of hype versus reality, a cautionary story of a game that stumbled out of the gate and has been fighting to find its footing ever since. Today we're going to perform a post-launch autopsy. We'll look at the data, the community, feedback, and the missteps that defined its launch. We're going to do a deep dive into what went wrong with a game that held so much potential, and then we're going to look forward. We'll map out a credible path to recovery, a roadmap for how Broken Arrow can, potentially, and probably, hopefully will be saved. So let's start with the vital signs and the data. This chart shows the game's concurrent player count on Steam since its launch. You see that initial surge? That's the buy-in. That's tens of thousands of players, wallets open, ready to love this game. It peaked at nearly 40,000 players around June 22nd, but look what happens next. A steady, undeniable decline. There are small bumps, maybe a weekend or a minor patch, but the overall trajectory is down. By mid-July, the player count is struggling to stay above 15,000. That's more than half the player base gone in under a month. This isn't just a post-launch dip, it's a significant bleed out. And the reviews tell the same story. Both the overall and recent reviews on Steam are sitting at mixed. For any developer, mixed is a painful verdict. It means for every player having a good time, there's another one frustrated enough to leave a negative review, which is a clear signal of deep systematic issues. So why did this happen? The first reason is one that happens long before a single copy is sold, and that's development delays and feature creep. Now, let's walk through the timeline. The game was first revealed way back in late 2019. A Patreon was announced in October 2020, and a publisher partnership was formed in 2021. The game was originally expected to launch in 2023 or early 2024, but was ultimately released on June 19, 2025, a year and a half late. During the extended development, new features kept being added, and while new features sound great on paper, this is a classic case of what's called feature creep. It's when the focus shifts to adding more and more content while the development of core, foundational gameplay elements gets delayed or doesn't receive the polish it desperately needs. As the development stretched on for years, the community, which was once excited, grew impatient and skeptical. And the lack of focus on core features led to the single biggest misstep of the launch, the one that angered a massive portion of the player base right away, the Skirmish mode Misfire. This Reddit post says it all. For so many players of complex strategy games, a private match against the AI is not optional, it's essential. It's a sandbox. It's where you go to learn the game without the pressure of getting obliterated by a multiplayer veteran in 5 minutes. It's where you test the new deck builds, practice your unit control, and just enjoy the game at your own pace. The community backlash was immediate and fierce. One user put it plainly, "No skirmish mode is unacceptable in my eyes." Another said, "This kind of game needs skirmish mode, I believe." The decision made many feel that AI development was deprioritized in favor of the multiplayer. And when you're making a game in the same space as current day titans like Company of Heroes 3 or a beloved title like Regiments, both of which offer flexible and robust player versus AI options, you can't afford to miss something so fundamental. The developers did confirm later that a skirmish mode is planned, but that initial trust was shaken badly. So if you couldn't play against AI, you were forced into multiplayer, and what you found there was a whole new set of problems, starting with the balance. This meme, while funny, is a perfect summary of the community's frustrations. It felt like everyone was making the same complaints over and over. The game's meta was plagued by systems that felt either overpowered or completely underpowered. There were widespread complaints about things like the effectiveness of infantry anti-tank weapons, how infantry performs in buildings, the functionality of APS systems on tanks, and even the power of ballistic missiles. When these core mechanics are out of whack, strategy variety dies. On top of that, you had widespread community sentiment that the Russian faction was overpowered, leading to endless cries of Russian bias. A lack of consistent updates meant that this stale meta was never addressed, and as a result, many competitive players, the ones who often create content and drive engagement, dropped off early. This was all made worse by significant communication gaps. Looking at the news hubs, you can see these long periods without meaningful updates or communication from the developers. For a live service, silence is deadly. It created confusion about the roadmap and what to expect for future content. It made the community feel disconnected and ignored. When players are reporting major issues and hear nothing back, they start to lose hope. And now we arrive to the twin horsemen of the multiplayer apocalypse, cheaters and leavers. It doesn't get more blatant than this. The game launched without a lack of robust anti-cheat measures, and this screenshot is the result. A player asks about an interesting number of BMPs, and the other player just casually admits, "We use cheat engine." This kind of thing completely undermines fair play. Why even try to pay competitively when your opponent can just conjure an army out of thin air? It created unfair advantages that discourage honest players, and the slow enforcement eroded community trust. Just as frustrating as cheaters are leavers, take a look at this end of screen match. On the friendly team, you can see 2 players are flagged as deserter. This means this was a 3v5 match. For the remaining players, this is an absolute death sentence. Yet at launch, there was absolutely no punishment for a user leaving a match early. The community, finally, there's a simple lack of things to do. The game launched with a very limited variety in its game modes. Crucially, there were no quick play or short session options. Every single match demanded a significant time investment, and this chart shows why that's a problem. For employed persons aged 25 to 54 children, which probably is the average audience for this game, the average time for leisure and sports is only 2.5 hours a day. That time has to cover everything: hobbies, family time, exercise, etc. Expecting players to commit to a 60-minute RTS match every time they log in is unrealistic. It made casual players feel completely excluded from the core experience. All of these issues created a perfect storm. The strong pre-launch buzz faded quickly, competing titles pulled attention away, and a lack of post-launch marketing meant the game's visibility just plummeted. Okay, that was a lot. But the story doesn't have to end there, thank God. Redemption arcs are possible, so how can Broken Arrow rebound? First and foremost, regular, frequent, balanced patches and meta updates. Very few games are perfectly balanced at launch. It's practically a myth. The health of the competitive game is defined by its evolution. The developers need to be frequently tuning unit stats and faction strengths based on community and data. This prevents the meta from getting stale and encourages players to experiment with new strategies which keep the game feeling fresh. Second, they must punish early leavers. This isn't theoretical, we have models at work. Look at this system from Overwatch. Leaving one game as a warning, leaving 2 or 3 gets you a 5-minute ban. It escalates from there to hours and eventually a season ban. A system like this is a must. Furthermore, when someone does leave, the remaining players need a fighting chance. Perhaps for a boost to their point income or the ability to field more units, or hopefully both. Next, they have to double down on anti-cheat. Improving anti-cheat is a constant, expensive arms race, but it's a war you have to fight. It's crucial to implement more robust systems on top of what's already there, and just as importantly, be transparent about it. Publicly share updates on the fighting against cheating and announce ban waves. Building trust is achieved through being responsive and open with your community. And please give us more ways. Introduce quick play modes for those of us who just can't commit to a marathon session every night. Think about objective-based skirmishes that are designed to last 30 minutes or less, or potentially even with fewer players. This would immediately make the game more accessible and appealing to both the hardcore and casual audiences who would have been shut out or currently are shut out. Finally, give people a long-term reason to stay engaged for community events and seasonal content. Launch official tournaments and fun seasonal challenges. Introduce ranked ladders with visible progression so players have a goal to grind for. And then reward that engagement with exclusive cosmetics and badges that let players show off their accomplishments. Don't try and stray away from the reality of the gameplay setting, but this can be a good loop that keeps modern games alive. At its core, Broken Arrow has something special. You can see it in the gameplay. The scale is incredible, the detail is there, and the potential that got everyone so excited, including myself in the first place, still exists. The developers at Slytherin have a very long way and difficult road ahead of them. But it's a road that has been traveled, thank God, before. If they can listen, communicate, and constantly address these core issues, there's no reason this game can't have one of the great comeback stories in gaming. But what do you think? Is it too late for a Broken Arrow, or is this the start of a redemption arc? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you found the breakdown helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more, and thank you so much for watching.